Hey, Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. I'm here in Denver at the AAAS annual meeting, and that's getting kicked off today with events really starting this afternoon and tonight. So I thought I'd take this time to provide early career researchers my 3 top tips for getting the most out of a conference experience. So if you are a grad student, a postdoc, or new faculty and you're at your first conference or one of your first conferences and you're trying to make sure that you get the most out of this experience and the time and the resources you invest, I think these 3 can help you. So one would be, of course, you want to meet new people, but some of the new people you meet, you may not have a lot of time for a longer one-on-one conversation with them. So don't let that hold you back, though, from introducing yourself briefly, maybe saying just a few sentences about what you do, mentioning what you thought was interesting about the talk or the poster that you just engaged with, or something you may know about the person from their published work or other things they've done, and ask that person if you can follow up with them by email. Because this way you don't have to feel like you're monopolizing too much of someone's time, or be nervous about not having enough to say in that moment. You could introduce yourself and again ask if you can follow up with email. Then when you get back, maybe next week, 1 week later, maybe not more than 2 weeks later, because you want to connect with people when it's fresh in the mind. But you can send an email and say, hey, we met at this event, and here's something I'd be interested to get your thoughts on, or could we set up a time to chat by Zoom or by phone or something like that. So the next one would be to make notes on things that you may want to ask someone about if they're giving a talk and you're not going to have the chance to go up at the end and connect with them. You can connect with them later, even if you haven't made an in-person connection at the event. So just make a note when you're listening to the talk, say, of something that caught your attention, and plan then to contact that person when you get back. So in this case, when you connect with them in the subject line of the email, you would want to mention something about their talk at that event. Because if somebody receives an email and it's referencing specifically a talk they gave or something else that's very specific to something that they actually did, they're generally going to, first of all, read that, and they're going to appreciate that you were paying attention, that you were engaged. And when they're giving these talks, one of the reasons they do it is to share the knowledge of what they've done. So it's natural for them to feel grateful that people were listening, that people heard, and that talk is kind of reverberating right outside and beyond the event itself. That's what is supposed to happen. So if you're not able to approach the person, don't feel like all is lost. Just make a note of what question you would want to ask them, and then do that over email, then maybe the next week or the following week. And I definitely recommend to write it down, because even if you're thinking that you're going to remember this, it is very likely that at the end of a multi-day event, you're not going to remember that exact question that you wanted to ask, or the comment or the info that you wanted to share. So my last one, and this again is for early career people, because if you're later in your career, you know this already, is that you definitely want to engage with social events. So things like field trips in the local area that you could sign up for. It's wonderful to sign up for those just on your own. You don't need to have a buddy with you by any means. I think it's really almost best if you don't, because that's going to force you to engage with the other participants. And even if you're tired at the end of the day, if you can make it out on a group dinner, especially with people that you don't already know, it's nice to use the time at an event like this to have some time out of the lab with your lab group. And maybe that's something that has been planned, and I'm not saying that that's not a good use of time, but if you can go out for a meal with people who you're not already familiar with, that can be a really big benefit to you. And don't feel that you even would necessarily need to stay for the entire event. Sometimes, I know from my own experience, you're tired at the end of the day and you may not want to be out drinking, You may not want to be out for many more hours. You may want the time, even if you're not going to go back to your room and go to sleep right away, you may want that time to decompress and rest up for the next day. So just because you may not feel like I want to be out for 3 or 4 hours, having a late night, don't hesitate to go and tell the people ahead of time that you may be leaving a little bit early. And you don't even have to give an explanation. But just because you feel like you may not want to party all night doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out to a dinner, to some of these social events. And I have a client that I'm working with right now who, after a long day of meetings and campus tours and things like that, went on a group dinner. And I was very encouraged that they did this, actually. And I was credited with, providing that support, right, to encourage this person to do this. And actually it worked out really, really well, because that client is in the process of working on what I think is going to be a proposal, or it's a pre-proposal now, for an opportunity that involves a collaboration with someone that they met at this dinner. So again, here in Denver at AAAS, very glad to be here, getting excited for the next couple days, and I hope these tips on making the most of your conference experience are helpful.